For today's video, we will be reviewing Sally's BMW M2 competition. This is Sally. Say hi, Sally.
Hi, Sally.
Now this is my video. Get out of it. All right, so like I said, this is Sally's BMW M2 competition. It is a 2019, and she has owned it for 6 months now, and I've had the pleasure of driving it every now and then because she's cool like that and she lets me drive it. But we're gonna go ahead and review it, so let's go ahead and talk first about the engine. Okay, so one thing with the BMW 2, which is pretty cool, it has two latches. One right here, so that hood ain't going anywhere. Powering this car is a S55 inline 6 twin turbo engine, which is the same engine that is in the M3 and the M4. It's a completely different engine than a base M2, which is an N55 inline 6 single turbo engine, and this one's making some more horsepower than that one. This thing does 0 to 60 in 0.4 seconds. That'd be insane. In 4 seconds. This thing does 0 to 60 in 4 seconds. It is extremely light, and I mean light. You definitely feel it when you're driving on the road, every single bump. I'm going to insert some clips of me driving it later, and you're going to see the video shaking, and it's just really that bumpy. While we're underneath the hood, a big issue with the S55 engines is the crank up. If you're planning on tuning it, modifying heavily the engine, or driving it super hard on the track, I highly recommend going to a shop and getting it professionally changed to a 4-pin or something that is really strong so you don't spin it, because if you spin it, there goes your engine. You really got to slam that hood. BMWs, more specifically the BMW M2, I was not really a huge fan of them, but once she started modifying the look a little bit and putting some front canards on it and a front lip on it, it really made this thing look a whole lot more aggressive. Because before I thought it was like pretty bubbly, not really a car I'd want to drive or get in, but after these carbon fiber pieces up front, I think it looks a whole lot more aggressive. And I also didn't like BMWs a whole lot, but that was before I got to drive it. And after driving this, it completely changed my mind. I am such a BMW fan now. I absolutely love them, especially this engine. I know the B58 is like another whole beast itself. I haven't really driven the B58 a whole lot yet. Maybe a future video on that. But as for right now, we're talking about the M2 competition. This car is an absolute beast. It is definitely fast enough to get you to where you need to go quickly. If you need to quickly get in front of somebody, or if you just want to go have some fun in Mexico, you could do that. This car is really fun. It's really fun to drive. You could take corners pretty fast, but it's also pretty chill. If you're not in the aggressive mode, if you're not like in the M2 or Sport Plus mode or anything like that, you could definitely daily drive it. It's just gonna be a little more bumpy than your typical daily drivers like a Honda Civic or something. There's definitely a big difference. There's also a big difference in the seats. The seats in this thing are not the most comfortable, but that's because it's more of like a sport car than it is like a daily driver. When I first started sitting in this car, I definitely noticed my back was hurting a little bit more. And it's because of the seats. I had to get used to them. It's kind of like going from a soft, comfortable couch to more of a stiffer, refined, not so soft couch. You're definitely gonna notice a difference when you first get into it. Now it doesn't really bother me a whole lot like it did before, and it's not something I complain about anymore, but you will notice it when you first start driving it a bunch or start sitting in it a bunch when you first get it. One of the downsides with the BMW is the amount of brake dust that comes off of these brakes. It is atrocious. I mean, it is like insane. The moment that you wash it and you go drive maybe like 5-10 miles, the brake buildup is just gonna come right back. And I know some people have commented, oh, you just buy different brake pads or whatever. She hasn't changed the brake pads yet. These are still OEM. So they're creating a ton of brake dust, which is, this comes with the car, just something to know about. Though this car is a 6-speed transmission, it actually comes with a DCT transmission, which is called a dual clutch transmission. It's, for lack of a better word, it is like an automatic manual. It's like a manual that was turned into an automatic, for lack of better terms. I can go more, explain to it, look it up. But they do come in that, or they also come in a manual transmission. What's funny about this one though, with the DCT, you do not have a specific park. You have a drive, a reverse, and a neutral, and that's about it. There's no P on the gear selector. What you do is you put it in a drive, you pull the e-brake, and you turn it off, and that's park. For performance, this car is a true stock track car. I know so many people that track this car completely stock and have an absolute blast with it. It hugs turns like crazy, accelerates really hard and really fast when you need it to. It also brakes crazy good. These brakes are ginormous. Like we were talking about earlier, the amount of brake dust though, it is absolutely insane. But you are gonna need that, especially if you are tracking this car, if you are taking those corners really fast. And because it's a BMW, there is a ton of aftermarket parts for it. You can look anywhere on the internet. You're gonna see so many different companies and things to do with it, which is great having a car that has a ton of aftermarket parts, because you don't wanna go and buy a car and then try to modify or do other things to it and turn out there's no aftermarket support for that car. Now this car has offset tires. The ones in the front are smaller than the ones in the rear, and that is because it is wider in the back than it is in the front. Up front, you're rocking a 245, 35, 19 in the front, and in the rear, you're rocking a 265 in the back, and that helps you put that much more horsepower down when you are flooring it off the line, because trust me, you are going to need it. One thing when Sally first got the car, she was getting a lot of comments about how she needs to be careful with it, take driver's courses, because apparently these cars are really squirrely and a lot of people crash them. Knock on wood, that's never gonna happen though, because Sally's a safe driver and I'm a safe driver as well. But that is something to keep in mind. There are a lot of people that complain that this car is extremely squirrely. The three reasons why this car is really squirrely is because it's a high torque car, it's a really short wheelbase, and it's a really light car. So the combination of those three things, which is why people complain about this car being so squirrely and losing control of it all the time. But I think it might just be because people don't know how to drive their cars. All right, and this car's acceleration with the twin turbos, you feel very little lag. It is very fast and picks up pretty good. I mean, I wasn't on the throttle all the way right there, but for being stock, very little turbo lag, very little. Also, since I'm sitting in the seat, something that is really cool is your seats, you can control the bolsters, how much you want the seat to hug you or not hug you, which is pretty cool because I feel like a lot of cars, the seats are stuck with a specific bolster in it and you can't really adjust that. But with this seat, you can adjust. You can actually adjust it in the passenger and the driver's side, which is something that's pretty cool. And a lot of people make a big deal about this. The BMW M buttons, instead of having them down here by your thumb grips, they're actually on the steering wheel on the left side of them. So you have M1 and M2. You can program to different things. For M2, I have programmed to Sports Plus transmission and exhaust, which I pretty much drive in all the time. And that's really when your car wakens up and drives aggressively. That's also when your valves and your exhaust, if you have that feature, open up, and that's when you get a lot of burbles and pops and bangs, which sound really good for a stock car. Obviously, if you get an aftermarket exhaust, it's gonna sound a lot better, but for being stock, it sounds really good. And I would say with the driving and handling of this car, it is very aggressive, so you definitely feel every bump in the road. When I was driving the Audi RS5, that thing is like a cloud compared to this. That you could go super fast and not really know how fast you're going. Same thing with this, but the difference is with that, you're just more like coasting, whereas compared to this, it's pretty aggressive and you're gonna bump in your seat a bunch.
Sorry, this is a little shaky because the car isn't the smoothest.
As you could probably tell from the video itself, the car is not the smoothest. It's probably gonna be a little shaky. I'm gonna leave it in there. That's kind of how it is when you drive it. From a scale from 1 to 10, 10 being like an Apollo IE and 1 being like the POP 50, I would probably put in the range of like a 7. There's definitely some room for improvement, but overall it is a great car. I would recommend it if you have the money and you're trying to get into like a high performance car, because it is a great car. It is a lot of fun to drive. It's definitely a head turner, and there's a huge aftermarket like I was saying before. So I think it's a great car. And that concludes my review of the BMW M2 competition. Thank you so much for Sally letting me review it and drive her car every now and then. Say bye.
Bye.
Make sure to subscribe. Make sure to like, comment, and subscribe. Make sure to like, comment, and subscribe, and make sure to follow her as well. I'll put her at right here. I'll catch you guys in the next video.